My name is Dawn Baxter, I'm the Membership Manager. For those of you that don't know CIPP, we are the UK's leading professional body for payroll pensions and reward. We work to support our members and the wider payroll community by providing industry-leading education, professional development and policy guidance to ensure payroll professionals stay ahead in an ever-changing industry. Today, we'll be diving into one of the key benefits of CIPP membership. I'm very excited about this. Award-winning professional magazine and why this industry-leading magazine is loved by all of our members. We do have a Q&A section and we will respond to any that are submitted at the end, so please feel free to add them in for me. Before we get to that, I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Laura Murphy, who is the content editor at the CIPP. Welcome, Laura. Today, can we start off with talking a bit about yourself and your career journey?
Of course we can. Thank you, Dawn, and thank you to everybody who's joining us today. I'm delighted to be here. So as Dawn said, I'm Laura Murphy and I work as the content editor here at the CIPP. So a bit of history about myself in terms of my career. I'm going to take it right back to the start. So when I was in college, as I actually had a job as a Saturday girl at Nationwide Building Society within one of the branches. And that was really my first experience of working with money. I absolutely loved it. I got to liaise with customers about money. And as I said, I did this around college. After that, I took on a job at Click, the photo shop. I'm not sure if that's still around. But again, I loved that. I loved the customer service element of the role. And that also taught me a lot about multitasking, which obviously is essential for a career in payroll. This was because I'd have to balance serving customers with also developing photos before other customers came in to collect them. And I'd also need to make sure all the stock on the shop floor was replenished. So like I say, that further enhanced my customer service skills and also gave me a bit of experience into multitasking. It was at that point really that I took my first payroll role. So I did fall into payroll, but I think we labour too much on that falling point. It's more important that I've stayed. So that was probably around 17 years ago, and I haven't gone on to do anything else. I've remained in payroll, and that's testament to how much I love the industry and how much I enjoy it. So that first role was as a payroll administrator. To start with, I was handed quite a relatively small, simple payroll. So when I say simple, it probably didn't have a lot of the benefits processed that you could do. It was relatively straightforward, and I loved it from the moment I stepped in the front door. And I think a lot around that was because of the cyclical nature to payroll. So I love a deadline, and it was great to be driven by those deadlines each pay period. I also enjoyed continuing those customer service skills, so liaising with employees, helping them with queries around their pay. And I also loved a good reconciliation after the end of the pay period. So where things didn't necessarily balance, doing a bit of investigative work, finding out what the issue was and getting those figures to balance. So I really, really, really enjoyed that role. As time went on, I got handed more complex payrolls, and I also had a bit of a dabble into pensioner payroll. So got given more and more responsibility as time went on. I have also worked across both in-house and outsourced payroll environments. So here at the CIPP, we want to ensure we represent every payroll professional. We realise that the legislation and guidance that underpins both environments is the same, but there are different nuances in the ways in which you work. So we're very sure that we represent you in all of our content and, of course, in our magazine as well. And I understand that having worked in both environments myself. And that was really my time in operational payroll before I came over to the CIPP.
That's great, thank you. Can I just ask you to move your mic slightly away from your mouth?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I always do this. A bit close.
It's because you're so keen to get your message across. So you mentioned obviously you work here after working in payroll, excuse me. So what attracted you to working here at the CIPP? And before you were content editor, I know you had other roles because I was here too. Could you talk us through your different roles and the progression you made?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first part of that question is around coming to work for the CIPP in the first place. And I wanted to work here to help people to do payroll correctly. I know how complex payroll processing can be, and I wanted to support payroll professionals to do the job right. Sometimes we just need a safety net to confirm we're doing the right thing, and that's one of the key benefits I think the CIPP offers, being that source of truth and a trusted advisor. I know that a lot of people cite the advisory service as their top membership benefit, and they can act as that safety net. If you're thinking, I'm pretty sure I'm doing this the right way, but I just want somebody to confirm, then the advisory service is great for giving you that reassurance. So yeah, I wanted to come and work for the CIPP to help people to get their jobs right. I'm sure you know, Dawn, from speaking to all our members and the wider payroll profession, that payroll people are really empathetic. They're very conscientious, and their sole purpose at work is to ensure the people they're paying are paid both accurately and on time every time. And I think the CIPP does a great job in supporting them to do just that. So that's really why I wanted to work for the CIPP, to help payroll professionals to get it right. And as you mentioned, Dawn, I haven't always been the editor here at the CIPP. I did hold a different role when I first walked in the front doors. So I was originally a Senior Policy Liaison Officer, which is a bit of a mouthful. The role is now currently called Policy and Research Officer, which is a lot easier to say. So at this time, I got involved with a lot of the work that policy obviously carries out. And this really allowed me to see the other side of the payroll curtain. So, of course, I've worked in operational payroll, processing pay for staff each pay period, but this role really gave me an insight into the other side of payroll. So I think it's amazing that whatever happens on a global basis can then impact what we're doing in the payroll department. So you might have a global change that our government reacts to. They then change the way that we're paying people, which obviously impacts the processes we carry out. So I think it's really interesting that, a world event that feels a million miles away could then have a direct impact on how you're processing people's pay. And I think it's really exciting that we get an insight into that, but we also get the opportunity to change things. So I know the policy and research team are really keen on getting payroll professionals to use their voices to shape the future of the industry. So that was really sort of my first experience of working at the CIPP. And I got to get involved with so many different activities, so whether that be writing articles for the magazine I now edit, speaking at our own events or external events, or responding to those government consultations and calls for evidence that shape the future of payroll. So whilst all this was going on, I did also get another fantastic opportunity, and the CIPP allowed me to take the FDA in payroll management. I graduated in 2023, and I'm really proud of this accomplishment. I managed to juggle working full-time with being a single mom during that time, and it felt fabulous to collect my scroll on the day that I graduated. It really complemented the role that I was doing as well. So anyone who's watching today who works in payroll and is thinking about taking the leap and embarking on a qualification, I'd say absolutely go for it. It's really aided my understanding of everything that I do, and it's such a good course. So in amongst all of this going on, another fantastic opportunity came up, and that was for me to move across to the role of editor of the CIPP's membership magazine, Professional, and I absolutely leaped at the chance. So I'd always admired the work of the previous editor, Mike. He's done a fantastic job with the magazine, and he really made it what it is today. So I'd always watched Mike from afar and thought I'd love to do that job one day, which I obviously am now doing, which is amazing. So initially, when I moved across to the role of editor, I still sat within the policy and research team. But then towards the end of 2023, the role moved across to our fabulous marketing team. And that's really just to ensure that everything that goes into the magazine aligns with all the work the CIPP and IPP are doing. If you have been watching us, you'll see there's been lots of changes, all really fantastic changes, and there are so many different exciting things going on, and we need to make sure we're covering all of that within the magazine and letting our members know.
Thanks, Laura. it's lovely to hear it from your perspective as somebody who's come through the ranks and had a slightly squiggly career, and how you've ended up, if you like, a content editor. So I'm sure a lot of the people here can relate to that journey. So let's talk about the actual benefit that Professional Magazine brings to the members. So for anyone watching who hasn't come across it before, what is it and what's its role in the profession?
Yeah, so I could actually talk about this for hours, Dawn. I'll try and keep it succinct.
Only an
Um,
hour we've got.
so the magazine really is a publication that brings together all the technical updates that payroll professionals need to know. We do have news online, which we put out, and that is really for those short, sharp updates that you need to know now. But the magazine, we have more space within, and that's to let those articles breathe. So it's not just the update that you need to know, it's also how that update impacts you directly in your payroll role, so putting it into practice for you. Um, we also can talk about the domino effect of those changes. So when something changes within payroll, it isn't just that it's in isolation. It could have then consequences on X, Y, and Z. And the articles really delve into that and just go into that more detail. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of technical updates in the magazine. We also have a lot around employment law as well. So on the surface, you might think payroll and employment law, how do they correlate? But they really do. So we include a selection of updates in each issue of the magazine, and I know that those employment law case updates are really, really well received by the members. So we have technical updates, employment law updates, but we also have a lot of thought leadership within the magazine. Now, this is really important to me because it encourages payroll professionals to think outside of the box. So whether that be, give yourself a pat on the back. These are all the amazing things you've achieved this year. I know that our thought leadership articles that focus on how great we are as an industry, they go down really well with our members. But we also have the opportunity to look at sort of the future of payroll and what the future may bring. So whether that be in the technology space, we're talking a lot around AI. So the thought leadership pieces go beyond those just technical updates and, like I say, encourage payroll professionals to think outside of the box. We also have advisory Q&As each issue. So as I mentioned earlier, our wonderful advisory service is regularly rated our top membership benefit. And the Q&As in the mag allow the team to share those questions that they're getting on a regular basis. So it's great for members to have a look at these because they may include questions that they hadn't necessarily thought of, but that they could consider in their roles. So the Q&As do a really good job at doing that. We also have a section in the mag called On Your Behalf, and that is from our lovely policy and research team. So that's the space really where our policy and research team update members as to what's been going on almost behind the scenes. So I mentioned that other side of the curtain earlier. This allows policy to give an insight into conversations they're having with government departments, any sort of consultations and calls for evidence they're responding to. That section is really important in letting our members know what policy is doing on behalf of you and the wider payroll profession. And we do have a bit of light relief in the magazine amongst all those technical updates. So we do actually have a section called Payroll Pets. Now, I love payroll pets. And, I've heard stories where people have contributed to payroll pets and that sparked a conversation between them and they've become friends off the back of including their pets in payroll pets. And that's something that's really important to me as well. Encouraging people to connect, to talk to others in the payroll network and community, because we do have a lovely crowd. As I said earlier, payroll professionals are very empathetic people. So it's nice to hear that, a section in the magazine has sparked off a friendship. So I've talked a lot around really what's in the magazine, but one of the key benefits of the magazine is actually appearing in it. So when you're working in operational payroll, there might not necessarily be the opportunity to write longer length pieces, but you can in our magazine. So if there's a technical area that you're really passionate about, or you have a thought leadership piece that you think would be great, then there is that opportunity to appear in our magazine. And it's just an opportunity to elevate your skill set and to do something a bit different. And again, it's that network and community. So you could go to an event and somebody could recognise you from an article, and that could spark off a conversation. So I think the benefits of the magazine are reading the mag and exploring all of its rich content, and also, like I say, appearing in the magazine if that's something that appeals to you.
Yeah, excuse me, that's really interesting. And you talked about advisory and policy. And for anyone who was at our last LinkedIn Live, that was Samantha O'Sullivan talking about those. So if you're more interested in those aspects, feel free to go to YouTube and you can watch me chatting with Sam last month. So that's lovely. So you oversee every issue as content editor. Can you give us an insight into the background processes and what's involved in bringing every issue together?
Of course. So obviously I oversee each issue, but at this point I do want to give a big shout out to our fabulous design team, because they are instrumental in making the magazine look as polished and as pretty as it does. And they're only a team of two, which people are flabbergasted when I say. So they do work very, very hard on the magazine. So thank you very much to Nicole and James. Couldn't do the magazine without you. So in terms of how I oversee the magazine, I'll take it right back to the very start. So each issue of the magazine has a theme, and that's really to bring the magazine together. We're not entirely married to that theme, so if we have something topical we think needs to go in the magazine, then we can include that. The theme is just there to, like I say, bring the whole magazine together. We'll have a feature article on that theme where we get a panel of experts to answer a selection of questions around that theme. And for example, the last issue we released was around the modern workplace. So obviously that looked at getting new generations excited about a career in payroll, and it also looked at all the different working practices we see in contemporary society. So whether that be working from home, working in a hybrid fashion, or working compressed hours, part-time hours, it included all those sorts of considerations. So I just wanted to give you a flavour of one of the themes that we covered, and they are different each issue. So I plan those a year ahead. Another big activity is devising our production schedule, because we do need to make sure that we're hitting certain deadlines to ensure our members receive the magazine as and when they expect it. And then once we've done those mammoth tasks, we then look at getting the content for each issue. And I will get the content from a diverse bank of contributors. So very lucky at the Institute that we have lots of people with amazing payroll knowledge and expertise. So I'm going to mention them again: policy and research and advisory. They are instrumental in providing the technical content that goes into the magazine's pages. We also have our technical writers as well. They're very knowledgeable. Our wonderful chartered members, they do get involved with providing content as well. And we also speak to our tutors who are very knowledgeable and can provide content. So we have lots of people that I can draw on to get the technical content into the magazine. We do also speak to a lot of different people at both our own events and external events. And that makes sure that we're giving a well-rounded approach to content in the magazine. I'll quite often get somebody coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I spoke to this man at a conference. He was really interesting. I think he'd be great for an article." So I will then go off and speak to them and get that content into the magazine. So I'm very lucky that we do have lots of people who come into the magazine. I'm actually inundated with content, and I think that's just because payroll people are so passionate and so keen to share their expertise and knowledge, and that makes my job wonderful. So once we've got the content sorted, it's then on to fact checking. So that does take up a big chunk of my time. Obviously, what we're putting out in the magazine goes to members. It might then directly impact how they process someone's pay. So we need to make sure that everything we're putting out is 100% correct, because as we know, people's pay impacts the whole of their lives. So we want to make sure that we get it right. And alongside that, I do a lot of proofreading as well. So that's slightly different in that it will be checking we're not inundating people with jargon, for example, or not fully explaining what an acronym is. In payroll, we love an acronym, but it can be too easy to just litter an article with acronyms and confuse people. That's not what we want. So I do proofread and make sure that everything we put out is clearly explained and easy to understand. So all of this is extremely fast-paced. By the time we've finished one magazine, I'm on to the next. And I mentioned multitasking earlier in my role at the camera shop. That has really come in handy because I'm never just balancing one magazine, I'm balancing a few. Maybe not necessarily working on proofing two at a time, but certainly looking towards the future and making sure we've got sufficient content for future issues of the magazines. So yeah, that's a high-level overview of what goes into putting the magazine together.
Thank you. And and I know there's others like marketing that are involved in proofing, and the printers that we liaise with and suppliers. So it's a whole host of you that makes it happen,
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So the magazine Professional is widely respected in the industry, and it's won many awards, which we're very proud of. How do you ensure it reflects the real challenges and changes payroll professionals are dealing with today and like at this moment?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm obviously very conscious of because I want the magazine to be of benefit to our members. And I am going to touch upon policy and advisory again. Feel like I've name dropped them a lot, but it just shows how instrumental they are in the magazine and putting it together. So policy and advisory speak to members all the time. Obviously, members are calling into the advisory service with their queries. If we see a pattern emerging, so the same sort of questions being asked, we know we need to put some content out to address that. So I do draw very heavily on the questions that we get into advisory to sort of tailor our content and to establish the direction we go in. So we're very lucky that we do have that direct line to people who are working out in operational payroll. I mentioned earlier as well, we get our content from many, many sources. So when we are out and about speaking to people at different events, we'll get a feel for if there are any issues that need to be addressed or any problems that need to be spoken about. So we're very lucky in that respect that we know a lot of professionals across payroll, pension and reward who will give us those insights. We do also have some regular contributors to the magazine. So one example of that is the wonderful Jenny Morris. She is legendary in the world of NMW. And to those outside of payroll who just go, NMW is just a rate, what's the problem? Why is it so hard to pay? They clearly have never dealt with NMW because it is so complex. And Jenny does a really good job of bringing a different perspective to each issue of the magazine. And she is in every single issue, so that shows you just how complicated NMW is and how much we need to talk about it. So, like I say, we do have those industry experts to ensure that the content is relevant and up to date for our members. Another thing that we do in the mag that I absolutely love doing is that we highlight our members' successes. So I do want the magazine to be a place of celebration where we recognise our own successes and the successes of others. So if somebody's being successful in a chartered or fellow membership, then we give a shout out to them in the magazine because it's not an easy process and it is a massive accomplishment to get either of those membership grades. So we ensure that we recognise them in the magazine. And we also have a page dedicated to those organisations that have received accreditation for our PAS, which is our payroll assurance scheme. Again, it's not an easy process. We want to make sure that we're recognising both organisations and individuals who are, excelling in their payroll roles and duties. So yeah, that's sort of how we ensure that we're up to date and have relevant content in the magazine.
And I think for me, from my observation as membership manager, is the fact that you yourself are from a payroll background, so you really understand the importance of it being right. And things with like Jenny Morris and the national minimum wage, whilst you are an experienced payroll professional, to keep up to date with something that complex, and there's huge fines, isn't there, if you get it wrong. It's really
damage as well.
Yeah, it's really important that we include those things for our members.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So, as someone who talks to members every day, which I love and part of my job, I can honestly say that the professional magazine is one of the most valuable membership benefits. So, from your perspective, why do you think that is?
Well done. I think it's for a number of reasons, really, but I like to think one of the top reasons is because it's a celebration piece. The magazine is there for us to recognise and celebrate each other and ourselves. Um, Unfortunately, we know that outside of the payroll department, in the wider organisation, people don't always see how important payroll is. So it's really important for us to do that. And hopefully, the magazine allows our members to do that, to take a step back, reflect, and think, wow, I've done a really good job. Look at all the changes I've dealt with. I've handled it smoothly. There's never been any issues. And hopefully, that is what the magazine does. So, a bit of self recognition, hopefully. I think the thought leadership pieces go down really, really well. As I said, some of those are about celebrating yourself, but it's also about, as I said, thinking outside of the box. So they can very much give our members ideas. It might spark a light bulb to go off and think about implementing new things in an organisation. So I do think those thought leadership pieces are very valuable. As we mentioned, we have a lot of specialists within the magazine who have their finger on the pulse in a certain area of payroll, pensions and reward, and can give the best updates in those spaces. So I think members really appreciate that. Um, Payroll pets, I'm getting that in there again because I love it so much. Like I said, the job is complex. It can be really difficult, and sometimes you are working long hours. Um, so I think having that little bit of light relief in the magazine, that can just give people the perk sometimes that they want. I mean, I love looking at dogs. It just makes me smile. So hopefully the same is true for our members. And just hopefully it's an uplifting magazine. The other thing within the mag that I don't think I've touched upon yet, but it's almost your one-stop shop for CIPP and IPP updates as well. So I mentioned earlier we're going through a period of rapid change. There are so many exciting things going on. The magazine really gives us the opportunity to showcase all of that to our members and to make sure that they can get involved with the things that are available to them, or that they're aware of a new training course or qualification. So the magazine does obviously keep our members up to date with all the things that are available to them. So yeah.
Okay, and it's all in one place, and
Yeah,
yeah, you don't have to go to different places to get it.
yeah, all in one handy little publication, which is
Yeah,
good.
it's exclusive to members, the magazine. So, to the members, what's the value of that exclusivity?
Yeah. So we make our magazine for you. It's one of your membership benefits, and we want to ensure that, as I said earlier, we're giving you what you want, content that addresses issues that you're facing within your real life jobs. And we do have a lot of feedback mechanisms for the magazine. So we run an annual survey, for example, and we have actually implemented suggestions from our members in that space to make sure we're giving them the magazine that they want. I also regularly get feedback from members at events or via email. Um, so, yeah, we make sure that the magazine is tailored towards them and that we're offering them exactly what they want and what they need. So I do think that's the value to that exclusivity. The magazine is moulded around what we hear from our members.
Yeah, and I also think because it's done by industry experts and thought leaders, the content is so valuable and and positioned in such a way that it's at the right level for our members reading it.
Yeah,
Which I think is a huge benefit to them.
yeah.
So, how do people that are CIPP members get the magazine?
So this is one of the things that we talk about a lot. So we are actually one of the only remaining membership bodies to offer a printed version of our magazine. And again, that is directly from member feedback. We've heard that because some of the content within the magazine is quite technical, people prefer to have that physical version because they feel they digest it in a different way to how they would on screen. And other people have said they just like the ritual of on a Saturday morning, I'm going to pick up my physical mag, I'm going to sit on the settee, I'm going to have a cup of coffee, and I'm going to read it. And it doesn't quite have the same feel for them doing that online with a cup of coffee or tea. So again, that's based directly off members' feedback that we still offer the printed magazine. However, we do offer a choice. So if you don't want to receive the printed magazine, you absolutely do not have to. You can just receive the online only, and that aligns with some of our environmental goals as the institute. We do also offer a lot more exclusive online content. So there are often a few more technical bits or thought leadership pieces that go into the online only version. And we do have a bit more room to play with some of the stylistic features on the online version. So we could have more video content, for example, because you can't physically include that in a printed magazine. So yeah, I think, whatever your preference, we cater to you. And that's something that I'm really proud of. As being editor of the magazine, that we listen to our members, we offer the content that they want in the way that they want it.
Yeah, and rightly so. And just a note, affiliate members and student members don't get they get the online magazine, which correlates with their online qualifications, or affiliates and their online membership. So we have something exciting happening at the moment, don't we?
We do.
So I
Very
wonder if you
exciting.
could tell us about that.
Yeah, so the latest issue of the magazine, the June issue, I mentioned it earlier with the theme of the modern workplace. I didn't tell you everything about it at that point because I wanted to save it up as a special surprise for the end. So that issue isn't just available to our members, it's actually available to everyone. So please do go ahead to have a look, check it out, see what the magazine's all about, the feel of it, the vibe of it. And this issue was actually a very, very special one for another reason. We were actually taken over by another company, Duvet Flip. We had their CEO, Leon Juice. He's got involved with the magazine. And what Duvet Flip do is get people excited about going to work. And that's where the whole Duvet Flip concept comes from. Their question is, what's your Duvet Flip? So what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning and go to work? And, we felt it was really key for us to share this far and wide. So if you do get the chance and you're curious, please do have a look at the magazine. We're very proud of it. And I think we're going to have the link to the magazine in the comments for those of you that want to have a look. So yeah, very exciting news for June.
Yes, it is really exciting. And one of the reasons we've worked with Duvet Flip is that they've got over 1 million followers, and they've interviewed some of the really big heads of organisations, some of the big companies, and Jason was one of them. And he got 30,000 views for his Duvet Flip edition. And then after that, we evolved and we had one about in Apprenticeship Week, which involved our very own Natasha Taylor, who is on her level 7, I believe now. She's on about a 4th apprenticeship. And also one of our payroll apprentices that had successfully completed, and they got over 45,000 views. And this aligns with the Institute's view to try and get out to more people and to make payroll recognised. So to take it this far has been just a fantastic achievement. That because the Duvet Flip will share it with their subscribers as well. So to get in the name of payroll and the Institute out there is phenomenal, and such a thing to be proud of. So well done, because I know it took a lot of work for all of you to do that.
It was very fun as well. It was really, really fun putting it together. And that's another thing I love about my job. I actually love that magazine. I really missed it when I was on maternity leave.
I know you did. A lot of us have worked here for a long time, and we get very passionate about our subjects. But that's the whole point of it, really. And we know that payroll professionals are passionate about their profession too. So I'm just going to check if there's any Q&As, questions. Not at the moment. If anybody does think of anything and they can't get online, just email me, dawn.baxter@cipp.org.uk, and I'll get an answer to it. If it's a technical one, it won't be me, but I'll get somebody else. So I'd really like to thank Laura for sharing her journey with us, giving that behind the scenes look at the magazine. And it really shows how much passion, hard work and insight goes into every issue. For anyone that is watching that isn't a member, why aren't you a member? Or if it's lapsed again, I would ask why. Now is a great time to join us and re-engage with the Institute. The professional magazine is just one of the many benefits designed to support you throughout your payroll career. As a goodwill gesture for attending today, if you use the code LL, that's Lima 25, when you sign up online, we'll waive the normal £50 admin fee. Make sure you register for the next LinkedIn Live on the 7th of August, when I'm excited to be joined by Fiona Smith, IPP Education's Training Manager, where we'll cover the training courses that IPPE offer, and how by joining as a member you can get access to courses at discounted rates. So make sure you register your spot through LinkedIn on Live. I've mentioned that previous issues of this LinkedIn Live will be available on YouTube. And so then finally, I have to say a massive thank you again to Laura and for all of you joining us today. And we look forward to you joining us to be part of the CIPP community. See you all next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.